Hello and welcome to episode number 71 of the Knitting Teaspoon podcast. I'm Lisbeth, your host, and this is a podcast which is all about knitting, sewing, crochet, spinning, weaving, basically all of the fiber crafts that I feel like. Although, well, I actually have been doing quite a few of those over the past time in which I haven't podcasted, which has been a long hiatus. I did not quite expect it to take this long, but the reason of it, well, part of the reason you can see behind me, this will be a completely new backdrop for you, even if you are a returning viewer, because this wall wasn't in our house the last time I podcasted. So, yeah, quite a lot has changed here. Yeah, so... it wasn't just that the renovation took this long. We basically just put in this wall. Behind me here is now the baby room. Behind me also used to be the place where I usually recorded my podcast, but we have had a major renovation because we had to make a room for the baby or nursery or whatever you want to call it, and it worked out quite well. We decided to paint the wall blue because both my boyfriend, or should I say fiance, and me really like the color blue. We think it's a nice and peaceful color and very relaxing, and it's our favorite color for both of us. So we hope that our little baby, which is due in just 9 weeks, oh my god, the time is flying, you guys, that he or she is going to like the color too, maybe. And otherwise I don't think they will have an opinion about the color just yet. Anyway, we just hope that it can be a nice and calming color, because the other side's also painted in the same color. I'm already getting off track and out of breath because, expanding belly, all my innards are placed on all kinds of weird places, and it kind of pushes on my lungs as well. So yeah, I'm definitely getting huge. Anyway, that's probably not what you're here for, so I'm going to talk about what I've been doing crafting wise. And I just realized that I forgot to take one of the projects that I wanted to talk about. So let's go ahead and fetch that one first. Since I didn't want to skip out on this project, I will start with this one, and it's a spinning project because most of my time has been consumed with one project, and if you have been watching my previous episode, you will probably know which one that will be, but I also, I will get to that in a minute, but I also took, kind of a commission, not really because I'm not really paid for it, but a friend of a friend had a dog who has passed away. The dog has passed away, not the person itself, but she wanted to have the hair of this dog spun into some yarn that she could knit or crochet something out of. So I have been working on that a little bit over the past, over a month it has been. Anyway, so I have finished the first 2 skeins of dog hair, and yeah, they are here, and I wish I had them nice and measured already, but I haven't. The reason for this being that I completed these applying these 2 balls while I was at a spinning group meeting, so I had to empty my bobbins to be able to continue working, so I just wound them off into little balls, and usually I wrap them around my umbrella swift thing, and that way I can measure the circumference of the swift, and also count the number of wraps, and then I know approximately what length of yarn I have. In this case I really don't have a clue, but I will do that anyway, and probably also give this yarn a wash, and it definitely smells doggy, and I'm I'm not against dogs or anything, but just having a dog hair smell is quite a quite a present smell. And it's not always nice to work with, especially when pregnant and you're a little extra sensitive to smells. So I am also happy to finish this soon, and I really want to get going on this project again, because, well, it I feel like I've been working on this for someone else for a long time, and it's about time that I showed some results for it. But I'm quite happy with the speed at which I got going once I finally got going with it. So yeah, it's coming along. And then I have another spinning project, and this one I had actually started just before I started the dog hair project, and this one is actually put into skeins, and I'm pretty sure that I somewhere have the numbers of the length of this yarn, but I think it's something like of a heavy fingering weight. This is 2-ply from fiber, Shetland fiber, that I purchased from Stranded Dye Works, and I had this on the bobbin when I started the dog hair project, so I needed to get this finished before I could continue with the dog hair project, because I only have a limited number of bobbins so far, and I don't like taking yarn off a bobbin and needing the yarn again later to spin on. So yeah, but I have the first 2 skeins finished, which is also the first 2 braids of yarn, although I do think I have a little bit of single ply left on one bobbin, but I thought let's just spin the 3rd braid first and see how far I get with plying before I start, you know, making a tiny skein of the leftovers of the ply. So yeah, I'm quite happy with this. I really like the way it turned out, and you can see there's a little bit of over plying, because I always overply anything if I'm spinning. So yeah, but these also still need a soak, and maybe it will relax a little bit more after that. We will see. Anyway, so let's get started talking about the one project that has been taking up by far the majority of my time over the past couple of weeks, and it is my wedding dress skirt that I've been knitting. So here it is, and it is finished, you guys, and I'm so pleased with it. So yeah, I'm afraid it doesn't really show up very well, because it's quite big and quite lacy, and there's not really an easy way to show it when it's not folded double. Maybe you can see it like this. It's probably good that I have a blue background now instead of a white wall. Anyway, so yeah, it's basically it's a large circle skirt, which will fall down from just, well, where my waist is now, because I have a huge pregnant belly at this moment, and yeah, it's coming to, well, on my ankles. So I'm really happy with that. And this pattern is actually the even star shawl, except that I cut out the middle bit of the shawl pattern, and instead of having the circle bit, I needed to get through there, so I added a waistband, and that's in here too. There I added some buttonhole elastic, so there's a gap here so that I can still adjust the elastic that is in here. I also added quite a few beads on this lace, and I see I have not woven in at least one end here. I thought I did them all. It looks like I've woven it in, but I've forgotten to trim it actually. Well, anyway, So yeah, so I added quite a few beads to the pattern. I'm not sure if you can see them very well because I can't really see whether the camera picks up the glimmer, but yes, there are quite a few of them. And also I made the pattern double width, so it took me about 9 weeks, I'd say, to knit this circle skirt, and I was so happy to be done, because you know, after a while of just knitting white lace, and especially the border, which took like 3 weeks. It's a knitted on border, like from this bit between my fingers, that's the border. It has a lot of beads in it, so there's 50 beads in every pointy repeat, so every point is one repeat, and there's 50 beads in each of them, and there's 112 of those repeats in total. And at some point it was definitely driving me crazy, so I was very happy to have that finished, and also happy to just to have it finished because it's finished in time. We're getting married in 2 weeks, so it was about time to have it finished, although it's been, I think, 2 weeks since I've finished it now. And since then I have continued working for my wedding dress, so I've also been knitting a top, which is going, well, obviously over the over the top part of my body. I do have a dress sewn for underneath the skirt and the dress, and yeah, I've taken patterns from the Even Star shawl or skirt in my case, and used those for this top, and it has a fold over type thing. It's now connected with just these stitch markers because I wanted to be able to kind of show the model, and the border along the bottom here is quite heavy because it's also quite heavily beaded. I think in total I've used over 10,000 beads now for the combined projects of the skirt and the top. So yeah, the beads definitely weigh more than the yarn for the project itself, but yeah, I quite like it. And the rest of this pattern is basically kind of an improvised take on a ziggurat. So Asa Tricosa is an amazing designer, and she has been working on this type of sweater or cardigan type garments, and to have a minimum amount of ends to weave in, and that are really nice fitting shapes. And I have used that for the shoulders. Maybe you can see it a bit better from the back side, but she also has these very nice knitted on edges that are just there. And so I have knitted 2 Dusala cardigans before, so I took inspiration from that, but it's definitely not a Dusala cardigan, because I've come up with the numbers entirely by myself, but I did take some elements such as the button band from that cardigan and used it in this design. And on the sleeves, which I have not really knit yet, so they are still on some of my spare needles, I am repeating the Even Star pattern again. So I have completed the first chart in the shoulder already, and I'm working on the second chart now. I think somewhere here I finished the first chart and I've just started the second chart, but obviously this is not going to get as wide as the skirt, so this should be pretty fast. And I've only just finished the bottom edge of this top, so that I can continue working on the sleeves now, which I'm quite excited about. And since we're only getting married in like 2 weeks, or 1 day less than 2 weeks, I should be able to finish that. Shouldn't I? I don't know. It's starting to feel a bit like a lot of pressure that I've put on myself, but I'm pretty sure that I'll be able to pull it off. And even if I have to finish the sleeves somewhat shorter than I actually would have wanted, I'm sure it's going to be fine. So yeah, I'm quite happy with the progress so far. And to stay on the topic of wedding knitting, I also had a lot of problems finding the right shoes for my wedding, because we're getting married in January and it's probably going to be cold, and I don't want very open shoes, and I don't like wearing high heels. So that made it very, very limited what I could wear. So I thought, well, if I'm going to wear just plain leather shoes, which are very hard to come by in the Netherlands, mind you, like all the men's shoes, the men can just wear nice and neat leather shoes and it's fine, and in basically every store has those kind of shoes for men, but not for women. And I really want that kind of leather style. What I feel like is a very basic shoe, because like half of the stores or half of the men's department in shoe stores is filled with that kind of shoe, but it's just impossible to find for women. Yeah, so if I'm going to wear that kind of shoes, at least I need some plain white socks. So I'm knitting socks for myself as well. So this is the first sock. Yes, so I'm planning to knit a full sock and 2 sleeves before our wedding, which is going to be in 2 weeks. So plenty of time. Why did I decide to take this evening and go and have a podcast? I really sometimes I wonder about my time management skills, but then again, I really like podcasting and I really miss talking to you guys, so I feel like it's definitely time to talk about this again. This is some yarn that I actually ordered to maybe become my wedding dress, or actually I bought this in 2 weights, so this is the fingering weight version, and I was never planning on knitting my skirt out of this yarn, but it's yarn that has a high silk content and the rest is BFL. I'm not quite sure anymore what the ratio is, but I feel like it's like 55% BFL and 45% silk, maybe. I'm not 100% sure, and I purchased it kind of without a label because it's from a store that sells supplies to dyers. So I think the person who sold it to me was thinking that this was going to get dyed, but I really like the undyed color because it's nice and wool white, and I really needed a pair of white socks. And this is actually a pattern from a Norwegian book that I purchased years ago from Bitsa Mikkelborg, and I have it right behind me here. I've also knit the front cover socks. This is a Norwegian price tag, so basically divide by 10 to get like euro or dollar or or pound prices, I guess, or whatever currency you're using, I don't know, but it's Norwegian crowns and it's a few years old, so it's not an incredibly expensive book anyway. And I have had my eyes on the socks that are on the back cover for quite some time as well, although this is apparently the gentleman's version of the traditional type of socks, and they also have a female version, and the picture of that is here. So it's going to be something like this, and it's probably not going to be as long because you guys, in 2 weeks, that's just never going to happen. Anyway, yeah, I'm glad that I have the first sock past the heel, and I've just started the patterning for the back of the leg, which you can't see in the picture, and I don't believe there are any pictures of the back leg of this sock in the book, so I'm quite curious what it's going to look like myself. But the pattern for the front is just going to run all the way up the sock, so I'm quite pleased with that. And this yarn ball is actually quite a big skein that I ordered 3 skeins of 100 grams and I got 2 skeins of 100 grams and one of 150 grams because they had a wrong delivery at the store where I purchased this. So I'm not really sad about this, just 50 grams of free yarn for me basically, so that's fine. It's really nice that they did mention it. I mean, if I were to dye it, then definitely the weight would be important, and I don't always measure like the weight of my yarn exactly because I typically know that I'm working with 50 gram or 100 gram skeins, and yeah. I'm not too bothered about one skein being maybe 105 grams and one maybe being 95. Sometimes I do weigh them, but more often than not I'll just skip that step, which is a bit bad maybe, but I typically do weigh the weight of 3 of them together because I typically weigh 3 skeins at a time. Although for now I have not been dyeing for a very long time because, you know, being pregnant and the chemicals, I just wanted to avoid any kind of risk for the baby in that sense. So yeah, it's been anyway. So that's another project that I'm working on, and then there's one more project that I wanted to talk about, and that is the gloves that I've been or the mittens that I've been knitting for my boyfriend. So I have been knitting these for my boyfriend. Here they are. They are finished, and I've given them to my boyfriend. They were a Sinterklaas present for him. Sinterklaas is a traditional Dutch feast. I don't know how to say this. National holiday, I say, and it used to be the traditional gift giving event of the year. So Christmas for us is not so much about giving presents to each other, although that's kind of shifting, because Sinterklaas is losing in popularity and Christmas is gaining in popularity. So now it's kind of whatever a family decides they want to celebrate. But yeah, about that, I have decided that this channel is going to be mature content. So somehow, like I heard a lot of things about the COPPA, I believe. I haven't really read into it. But basically, I feel like my content is not created specifically for kids, and I feel like none of my content is going to be particularly offensive. So I'm not trying to creep you out if you happen to be watching this with a little child. I feel like that should be fine. But I feel like I'm going to miss out on a lot of options if I would somehow purpose this as meant for kids, and it's definitely not specifically meant for kids, although I feel like it's not offensive to kids as well. But I feel like legally it would be a lot easier to just brand this as mature content. So I'm hoping that that's not offensive to any of you guys. Anyway, so back on the mittens, these were a design that I just made up as I went, and I had my boyfriend fit them plenty of times before I gave them to him, so he definitely knew what he was getting as a present. Anyway, and now that he has had them, he has been cycling to work with these mittens a little bit, and unfortunately he thinks the cuff is a little bit too small, so it's not long enough and it's not keeping his arms warm enough. So luckily I do have some leftover yarn, not much but some, and especially since this is quite heavy yarn, I feel like I have 20 grams left of something slightly over 100 grams. So I definitely should be able to lengthen the cuffs a little bit for him. But I haven't gotten around to doing that yet, and I feel like that's it's going to have to wait until after our wedding. Or at least until after all of our wedding knits are done. Anyway, I feel like I'm forgetting something and I'm not quite sure what it is. I have been sewing over the past few weeks. I did finish my wedding dress, so the dress is going to go underneath the skirt and the top that I've just shown you, but I'm not going to show that on the podcast because I like to keep that one a secret for my boyfriend, and I know that he likes to watch this podcast every now and then, so I'm sorry, you will see it after the wedding, which is just 2 more weeks from now, so that shouldn't be too much of a problem. I've also been sewing some sleeveless tops for myself, like undergarments, and yeah, they are finished, but they are also in the laundry because I've been using them because they're maternity wear, and I just have a severely limited number of clothes that fit me right now. So yeah, they are constantly either being worn or hanging around in the laundry, and currently they are hanging around in the laundry. And I've also made another dress. So I have the Agnes maternity dress pattern from Tilly and the Bottoms. So I kind of always have been wearing Agnes tops, and they are long sleeve t-shirts from a jersey fabric, and they are kind of my staple go-to shirt for all throughout the year basically, although in the winter I tend to wear sweaters or cardigans over them. But yeah, I've made another one of those, but it's again also in the laundry because I don't have that many clothes at the moment. I'm still wearing the one that I made a few weeks ago, and I've shown that one on the podcast before, but I have modified the pattern since then. That means that I've actually left out a modification that I did make then, because I made it with a less big belly version of it, so you create extra room for a pregnant belly in that pattern by how do you call it, by wrinkling the fabric on in the side seam, and I did not need as much extra fabric on the front side back then, but now my belly is quite big, so I did need all the extra fabric that was incorporated in the pattern. So yeah, I'm definitely using it now. I'm also really glad that this sweater still fits this well. I mean, it's always been quite a roomy sweater. It's a Marius sweater, so it's Norwegian pattern, and I knit this one for myself and for my boyfriend, and also for our little baby that's going to come end of February, beginning of March, somewhere around that time. Yeah, and I'm really happy that it stretches far enough to accommodate my belly. And it's really weird because over the last year I knew that we were trying to, have a baby, and I kind of decided to knit a lot of cardigans instead of sweaters because I thought that would be easier to wear once I got pregnant. But it turns out that I don't really like wearing the cardigans now. Partially because they are quite short, so they can still stretch over my belly and close, but because it's knitwear, I mean, it's definitely stretching, but they lift up a bit too much, and this sweater always was a bit wide, and it still fits nicely over my belly, and it's long enough. And I also have this tunic that I really love wearing. There are some knitted garments out of my wardrobe that still fit quite nicely over my baby bump, so that's definitely nice. Anyway, I think I basically told you all that I had to tell you, and I feel like my belly is starting to get sore from somehow talking for this long, I think. Well, my shape isn't great at the moment. Over the past few weeks we had a renovation, and after that I got really ill for a while, and also had some major back injury. Well, not really. I didn't really injure myself since then, but I had a lot of ache from an old injury, and I've been seeing a therapist since, and some thorough massages have really helped. But for a few weeks I definitely had to use crutches if I wanted to get further than like our letterbox. So yeah, it's definitely not been fun and games here all the time, and it's been quite stressful also being pregnant. Anyway, combined with the really poor health over the past few weeks, it's been hard on me, which is also why I haven't podcasted. So first, actually, I did record another podcast episode 1 week after the last one, but I kind of forgot that for our renovation we had to move out our computers, which used to be in the spot where the nursery now is. So I did record a podcast, but I couldn't edit it because, like, while recording, the house was still pretty much in order, but for at least a week I couldn't use my computer because everything was just crammed on that side of the room, and to make space for the renovation, and we needed to paint, and we got some delays in the crafting, and oh my god, it was quite emotional. So yeah, anyway, and then after the renovation stuff I got really sick, or actually kind of midway through the renovation stuff I got quite ill, and it's been terrible since, but it's finally getting better, so I feel like I'm kind of feeling a little bit more myself right now, and that's so amazing. Anyway, enough about that. There's also one more thing. My boyfriend or fiance is currently abducted for his bachelor party, and I'm really curious what his friends are up to. But you know, I'm probably not going to know until he gets back. Anyway, I'll go and edit this podcast now, and I definitely enjoyed talking to you again, and well, it's really amazing that you came back after this long hiatus in which I didn't really let anything, I didn't share anything about what was going on, so I'm really thankful that you came back if you did. And yeah, I wish you all a happy time, and I hope to see you again soon. So bye!